working at Explorer, I went out to recess duty and I was like, what is happening? Because students were all independently playing on their own. And then when a problem would arise, they would solve the problem with each other. And then they would move on with their lives. And I was just like, how is this possible that people are able to just self-regulate in this way? I was so confused. And it was because of all of the training with problem solving. They would come back to my classroom, and instead of me having to solve the problem, they would say, Miss Jones, I need to talk to so-and-so in the hallway to problem solve. And I would say, okay. And they would go out there for a few minutes, do their own problem solving, and then they would come back. And then I would say, do you need anything? And they'd say, no, we solved it. So these are ways that we can actually give students the tools to do this work themselves. And it works for having them solve their own problems, but also if you have a class problem, you can do a whole class problem solving meeting.
I would solve the problem by having a little talk with them and saying that's my pencil and can you please give it back? That's what I would do.
A problem might come up between two students and somebody might say, so-and-so took my pencil. And then I say, have you tried solving that problem? And see if they would go do it first. And if they need help with it, and a lot of times first graders do because they're still learning the language, then I say, let's go talk to that person. And then I prompt them to tell that person how you feel. And they'll say, I felt sad when you took my pencil. And then I check for comprehension, how is your friend feeling? They feel sad. Why? Because I took the pencil. And then I ask, what do you think you could do about that problem? And then have them then say, I think I should give the pencil back. Because kind of based on them understanding that they care about the other person and they have empathy, and therefore they're going to do the right thing because they care about the person, not because Miss Lim told them to give the pencil back. So it's always on them. And then hopefully as they get older, then they internalize that quite a bit more. With my little ones, we talk about big problems and little problems.
Well, one of the things she taught us is to first use your words, and if it's a small problem, you can fix it with your words. If it's a big problem, you go tell the teacher right away.
So when it's a small problem, that's when they have that interaction of saying, I feel this, when this happened, and then the other person acknowledges what that person is feeling, and then they both come up with solutions. Big problems are the ones where we do need help from an adult, like if somebody hits or gets hurt, or you've already tried solving a problem on your own by talking it out and it didn't work. Maybe you tried a couple times, then you get help. And with language there, it's really important. I try to help them change their language of I'm telling the teacher to I need to get help so I can solve the problem.
You know how we do calm bodies? Calm bodies mean hands to self, and this is how we do it. We're keeping our hands to self and calm body signal. If I'm touching Sasha, you might give me a calm body signal. Say if Addie touched me and I already gave her a calm body signal, but she didn't stop. And so I would just tell the teacher. No, you would still try to solve it with your words. Hey, I gave you a calm body signal, but you have to listen. And then if I still don't stop, then you can tell the teacher.
So if there was a really big problem, someone's really frustrated, then I ask them, what do you want to do to calm down? Do you want to use the calming space or doodle at your desk and then come on back and then we can solve that problem? And then they can have the conversation, because no one can have a problem-solving conversation when they're too mad or too sad. It just doesn't work out very well.
So in the beginning of the year, I do a lot of facilitation of when we talk about, we can only take ownership of how we feel and how we thought of something or how we interpreted something. I am it is actually a caring thing to not assume what the other person felt, what they did, why they did it. But we're gonna first say I statement. So we start just like saying, practicing I felt, I need, things like that. And then we practice like the other person is practicing listening to understand. So there's these language frames that we use and we role play and stuff like that. So then like if I'm saying, I felt sad when you said I couldn't play with you at recess today, then the other person just pauses and says, are you saying? So are you saying that you felt sad because we didn't invite you to play? And then the person is like, okay, you heard me, understood me, or nope, that's not what I said, this is what I said. And then we just do that until the person says, yep, that's what I said. I'm understood, I'm heard.
We do role plays sometimes. We have puppets who have problems, and then they help figure out what the puppets can do to solve their problem. And what's really great about first grade is that on days where you do some role play or use puppets, that very day, they'll come back from recess and talk about how that happened in real life.
Sometimes, especially with younger students, this person's problem and this person's problem may not be the same story. And so there might be some work around how do we get on the same story? What actually happened? And so that's another kind of troubleshooting place to kind of help students figure out, okay, well, how do we really see what actually happened? And maybe there was some misunderstanding part of it. Maybe, there was some part of it that I might have remembered incorrectly. Those kinds of things that allow them to really get at what actually happened and then how do we move on from what actually happened. But the important piece is the empathy building, because if they don't have that, they just go through the motions and they'll say, I'm sorry. But they don't actually they never heard the person, that stuff never happened. We actually do empathy training with students. We teach them about, okay, so notice in your own body, how does it feel when you are feeling angry? And then what happens in someone's face? How can you tell? Those kinds of pieces that help students to kind of unpack those very small nuances of what it means to feel some kind of way and then identify it in themselves and other people, so then they can have that empathy for the problem-solving needing to happen.
I noticed some students who are doing that already naturally. And so Jesri is one of those students who does it naturally. So I'll say, you know what, can we practice that together? And if a student needs help with that, can they invite you to help mediate that conversation for them? She's like, yeah. So then now in our peaceful place where it's private, students then invite me or another student to say, can you help me have this conversation with so-and-so because this is not working. We're trying to have it. So that's usually how we approach that.
When we think about the purpose of school, it's to try to create the humans that we want in our future societies. And we want humans who have these skills in being able to have empathy for others. We want humans who know how to problem solve and to come to mutually agreeable solutions with other people. We want humans who are able to think about how their actions impact themselves and their community. That's the crux of the kind of humans we want in the world, and so that's why we do this.